2021 Common Council meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call.
Strobush,
Here.
McLaren, Isaacson,
Here.
Lanham. Here. Leonard.
Here.
Elkin.
Here. Okay, we'll start off the meeting with public comment, and there's a few people here who would like to go first. Okay.
Here on behalf of the Friends of the Library. The Friends of the Amory Area Public Library Foundation is a tax-exempt nonprofit corporation founded in 1983, made up of volunteer members who are represented by an elected board of directors. The goal is to actively support the Amory Area Public Library's mission of enriching the community by connecting people with information, ideas, and experiences. The foundation provides critical financial support for the library collections and programs. Hopefully, we can resolve some of the miscommunications and misstatements of recent weeks. It was stated in the October 6th City Council meeting that the Friends are rethinking managing a bookstore in the new location. The Friends are in the process of regretfully liquidating the present bookstore. As we all know, COVID restrictions have presented challenges, one being stopping the products. All books must be removed, and there is no efficient way to store between moves, nor is there enough space at the new location to hold the books still remaining in the bookstore. Once it is established, the city's center's lower level is ready for the library. The time frame of the move, the height of the ceilings, the safety concerns about mold and air quality are resolved. The Friends will be able to evaluate a plan to establish a new bookstore in the room that the library has graciously provided for us. Media donations must be collected, categorized, and blended into the collection, placing books into the hands of everyone. The funds that the Friends have raised have been passed on to the library for books, media, programs, and equipment. Contrary to the statement of the city council member in the August 4th meeting, Friends do not have funding available somewhere north of $150,000. Friends membership does not have the resources or expertise to move the entire library. Thank you for your time and our attention to our library.
Thank you, Elaine.
Well, good news. Paul and I were talking, the recycling center. They allotted $1.6 million to refurbish it. I hope that includes some more bins for Amory, because unless you go down there at daybreak on Saturday, you're never going to get it in. Anyway, I'm here tonight to ask the city council to set up a recycling committee, which we got part of the council, the women's club, and any other person or organizations that want to be involved in this. We need to set it up so that we can address education for the residents, and also to write a local ordinance, which is required by the DNR. And it would also enforce or take a look at the 1990 law that was passed that says that cities have to have a mandatory plan for recycling in their city. So if you have a plan, you can give me a copy. If you don't, then we need to work on one. The Women's Club has been actively involved in recycling here. We actually made a resolution that we sent to the General Federation of Women's Club Wisconsin, which we're a part of, and I hope it goes on to the international one, be part of their resolutions. It says resolution for conservation, education, and programs. Whereas the Amory Women's Club, a member of the General Federation of Women's Clubs of Wisconsin, recognizes the need to promote and encourage participation in conservation, education, and programs. Whereas this includes recycling, repurposing, reusing, reimagining, and rethinking. Included also are renewable and non-renewable natural resources. The Amy Women Club urges all local, state, and national governments to aid in the preservation of the environment. Resolved for the GFWC Wisconsin to recognize the importance of that adoption of that mandate. This is going to be considered at the winter meeting of the Women's Club for Wisconsin in, I believe it's February. They're going to consider it. They can take it as it is, or they can change a word or whatever. So anyway, I really would like to get a recycling committee together, because I think it would be really important. It would be helpful to the city, to the residents, because actually by law, if you don't recycle, you could have a problem.
Okay.
You know, individually and businesses and whatever. If you have a special event, you're also required, the city, if you're involved in it, you have to provide the necessary recycling bins. So all this information can be found on the DNR website, the 1990 recycling law. A lot of it pertains to the like Polk County, their responsible unit. But there's little things that we need to do. We got to keep the stuff out of our environment. I don't know how many of you know that Eau Claire had to close 15 of their wells because of contamination from basically plastics that were thrown in the garbage and put in the environment, and you know, they dissipate to that little tiny thing. So I would.
Wasn't that PFAS?
Pardon me?
Wasn't that PFAS is why they close those?
Yeah. But
It's not
it
exactly
still has it still has a
But it's not.
consequence. Yeah. Anyway,
Polyfluoro.
so
Different.
I really would like to set up a committee and get this taken a look. I want Amory to be the one that people say, oh, hey, they're the ones. Just like I'd like to see Polk County be the head of theirs. And they did put a resolution for education in their mandates that they passed. So it's never too late. You can always start at any time. So I know the Women's Club would be more than happy to meet with anybody on the city council who would like to do this. And put out the word if there's another club or organization or even an individual that would like to come and join us, but we need to get going. Thank you.
Thanks, Gloria. Is there anybody else? Okay, I got a couple things. Main Street's open, Yahoo. And the businesses are happy, the people are happy. Just a reminder that because there's no stoplights, doesn't mean you don't have to stop. Make sure those are four-way stops or on the corners of Broadway and Keller and Birch and Keller. So let's be safe. This is what this project was all about. Second thing is behind Gloria is Polk County did pass the update portion to the Polk County Recycling Center, and she is right. We're overdue for a bigger, newer site out of downtown, preferably and away from the river. So I'm just keeping my eyes open. Any suggestions would be greatly appreciated for this new site. We can work with Lincoln, I believe, and maybe Alden, Blackbrook, and to help put this all together. You know, I was thinking even out on airport land out there, but there's things we have to do and move forward. So
I think along those lines, Paul, kudos to Fran Duncanson for spearheading the
yes.
Polk County effort to get that passed.
Yeah, her letter really inspired
Somebody.
Yep. All of them, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
So, okay. Move on, consent agenda items, minutes, city council, October 6, 2021.
The special city council meeting from October 26th, I think we need to pull that out because it indicated that I was here to vote for the first three things, but I wasn't here. So, and I talked to Ben yesterday. He's modified the minutes from that, but I wasn't here for the first three items.
Okay, so Then we need city council October 6th, committee of the whole October 19th, and plan commission October 28th. Those three.
Motion to approve consent agenda, striking out the October 26th special council meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, first on the agenda,
No, we
Terry.
actually have to approve those, right? Because we moved them out, so I'll make a motion to approve the special city
Okay.
council meetings from October 26th with the adjustments to the first three votes from a 5 to a
Okay.
4.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, Terry Howard, Polk County Economic Development,
We're just so excited to see my presentation, right, Paul?
correct?
I think we have our technology worked out here so that I can join the Zoom call and share my screen. Look at that. Feel like I should get a hand slap back in the corner there. Thank you. Let me pull this up. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Terry Howard. I'm the executive director of the Polk County Economic Development Corporation. Wanted to come here tonight because you guys do support us. So I know Paul does a great job for you guys here locally, right in Amory. I'm happy to partner up with him. We have a great working relationship. But wanted to show you what's going on in the bigger picture of Polk County too, and then how Paul and I partner up on some of these initiatives. So the purpose is fairly self-explanatory, but really the one thing that comes across is the old adage, as you know, dealing with Paul, of just chasing smokestacks, which used to be economic, completely changed. Now it's about education, it's about housing, it's about workforce, all different, but all yet tied together. So a little bit about how we're structured. I started just 3 months before the pandemic hit. So I always say I was hired as the Polk County Economic Director, but it became Polk County Economic Survival. And it really was a whole different ballgame with all the grants and different things in place. Can I keep my business open? Can't I keep my business open? None of that was in a lot of people's jobs during that pandemic time. So everybody had to adjust to that. But we're structured with a board of 14. I do have an executive board and a full board that I report to. Our funding comes from the municipalities, so the 9 villages and 2 cities within Polk County, plus the county itself, and a greater share of our funding comes from private industry. So I'm out working with the local employers, just like Paul is, to try and get them interested in what we have to offer too, and thankfully a lot of them see value in what we try and bring to the county. So just a real quick thing on unemployment, just because it's been such a wild ride and it's hard to believe it was just a little over a year ago, but you know, we reached a high during the pandemic of 17.7. Now we're down to 3.2. Based on the DWD numbers, which is the Department of Workforce Development, working labor force within Polk County is 24,340. Of that, 23,562 are employed. So I know that there's many employers in Polk County that would love to find those 778 that they could put to work. But I don't know how those numbers are defined as to what defines whether they're actively working or looking for work. But I know there's way more than that potential in Polk County right now to find a job. So a little bit about the pandemic response, and Paul, you know, I hope you feel free to hop in here wherever you want. But these are actual Polk County numbers of the grants and the programs that were applied. So you can see some of the numbers there based on just the payment protection program alone, which is actually a federal program, but it for Polk County, they figure it saved or retained about 6,300 jobs during that pandemic time. So in other words, they would have been laid off or furloughed or something, and it retained those jobs. But the We're All In grant program, the EDA CARES Act, the Regional Business Fund came in with a fair amount of money and continues to, which I'll have a little bit later in my presentation. But we also led during that time a countywide business recovery task force. So once it kind of people felt a little safer again, Paul was on that committee with me as well. we put together the local chambers, local leaders within the county and local business leaders. And we developed a business toolkit so that people could safely reopen their businesses based on all the different questions that were swirling around at that time in the county and really in the nation. So of course, I maintained a Polk County EDC website with all the necessary information so any local employer could find information. And there was a lot of collaboration. Paul and I were on a lot of calls with local and regional resources, Momentum West, the St. Croix Valley Regional Partnership, just trying to each help each other out and stay in touch with all the programs and the resources that were available to us during the pandemic. Okay. I was seeing something different here than I was seeing up there.
Just real quick, on locally, the We're All In grant last year and then the small business recovery grant. Recently, the Department of Treasury, Wisconsin Department of Treasury put out some summary on this. It's multiple pages. But Amory had 174 applications for either, well, in some cases, both the We're All In grant and the small business recovery grant. And the total of $835,000 was awarded. That's just Amory, just Amory businesses. So it was kind of interesting, I thought. Getting, for a lot of these grant programs, getting dialed down to municipalities is not always available. Usually it's a countywide type of a thing. But in this case, they did have the community, which I thought was pretty impressive. So it's quite a bit of money.
Yeah. So some other things, and again, a lot of this is things that I had assistance with from Paul, but some of the things that we were delivering during the pandemic, we didn't shut down and try and run away. We developed a new business park search tool. So within the Polk County EDC site, which I encourage you to go visit, there's a business park search tool, which was not there before. If you were a site selector or a broker working for a company looking to expand, maybe just a business owner looking to expand, there was no one way to go within the county unless you would call like the city administrator to say, hey, what kind of land do you have available? There's now a searchable database of that within the Polk County EDC site. So that wonderful 20 acres that you guys have on the other end of town, that is now known so that it would be available. The only other place in Polk County that has that much land is Milltown. They have a 20-acre parcel also available. So you guys are positioned really well in that regard, I think. It's just a matter of, I know you have some finished work to do out there, but anyhow, develop that business park search tool. So you can go to any of the business parks, whether it's Milltown, here, St. Croix Falls, and you can find what's available. Also, just so we could be more transparent as an organization for the Economic Development Corporation, I developed or worked with HubSpot, which is a CRM tool. So tonight's meeting, all my meetings, all my conversations via email, it's all tracked in HubSpot. So the county knows exactly, even though I'm not a county employee, I'm an independent contractor. When the county or any of the municipalities want to say, well, how are you using our money? What are you doing for the county? It's all trackable within that HubSpot tool. We also broke out the contact database. It was just one database. I know today I sent out an email that was fairly segmented. You couldn't do that before. It just all went to the contact list. Now, if I just need to contact realtors in Polk County, or if I just need to contact municipal leaders in Polk County, I have that all segmented into reachable databases. So that's really nice too. And then also launched a business listing and a YouTube channel within Google. Those things weren't there before, and it's just expected these days that you have as much media and social presence as possible, because that's where people are going first to find out about organizations. So a little bit more just on the grants and things. This is the current numbers. So this is the Main Street Bounce Back Program, and this is through last month. So Paul, I don't know if you have, I know we talked about this the other day, but in Polk County, $190,000 so far, and that's in those $10,000 reimbursements for either buying or leasing a vacant building within Polk County or within our region. So I don't know, do you have numbers?
Yeah, and this program started August 9th, and it runs through June 30th of 2022 for businesses looking to lease or buy empty spaces type of thing. And one of the things they need in the application, this is all administered through the regional planning commission. one of the things they have to have is a letter from a EDC entity such as AEDC or Polk County EDC. And so I've written 15 acknowledgement letters just for Amory, just Amory businesses. And of those, 8 have contacted me and received grants. Now, that doesn't mean the 7 aren't receiving grants, it just means they haven't come up yet in the cycle. The thing that's interesting is that 9 of these 15 were in business, were new after the first of the year, but they're in business before this grant came out August 9th. And I think that's pretty impressive when you think about the COVID 2020 year and the Main Street year, that 9 people, entrepreneurs, took risk, if you will, on Amory businesses. And to that, some more have been added. So like I said, 15 letters. I think you see that on Main Street. You see that in a mall. There's new businesses. We don't have a lot of empty businesses, spaces anymore in town. And so it's really impressive to see that. And I can tell you right now, I've been doing this for 10 years, 11 years almost now. It's kind of fast, I guess. A lot of times, Terry and I talk about this, a lot of times when these grants come out, and before COVID, there were grants, a lot of grants. But they get them in Northwest Wisconsin or north of 90, forget about it. Dane County, Milwaukee County, it was tough. These programs we're talking about now, we're seeing the money up here, which is really encouraging. I had one lady actually cry on the phone when she called me and said she got the grant. It's a big deal for them. And so I encourage anybody listening to this, if they don't know about it, I mean, this grant has been communicated via our membership, the ADC membership, as well as the community club membership. And anytime I see something going on in some building, I'm at their front door saying, hey, you know about the grant. There's 2 people in town, 2 businesses in town right now, for example, that I want to follow up with that aren't part of the 15 that I'm hoping will apply and see how this goes forward. So that's very encouraging.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And not that I have a lot of tenure just coming in prior to COVID, but that was the thing that I kept hearing was that, grants and things didn't make their way up into this part of the state. And that is really, the pandemic has changed that. And it's really forced a lot of rural EDC guys like Paul and I, and 80% of Wisconsin can be considered rural. The focus of just about everybody rural EDC now is workforce, housing, and broadband. And there's some subsets in there for daycare and some others, but those really are, we're struggling with it here, and so is everybody else. So we're trying to come up with ways to effectively manage that, and I'll show you a tool that we're trying to make a difference in that. This is the micro enterprise grant program numbers. And the reason I like to show this chart is because, Polk County did very well, 30 applicants. I always like to compare myself against St. Croix because they're just so much bigger. And I don't know, they seem just to have, they have the money corridor of 94 running right through them there. So I think we did quite well when it came to the micro enterprise grant program as well. So some deliverables so far. Obviously, there's a legislative component to what we do. We try and get in touch with our state and local representatives as much as possible. But I'm really trying to gear the EDC as far as Polk County goes to be a much more deliverable organization. So next year going forward, there's going to be some other deliverables like index reports and things that I'm going to be producing, more regular newsletters. And then there's also something that we're trying to make a direct impact in the workforce. Let's see if this works. Change my screen. Let's see. Did it like that? There we go. So this is a brand new website. Well, I shouldn't say it's brand new anymore. This is a website that is probably about a month and a half or so old. And its main focus is workforce attraction to Polk County. You can talk to anybody, whether it's a small retail operation or some of our large manufacturers, everybody needs employees. So we're trying to develop a tool that will draw those people into Polk County. So it's got a catchy URL, it's called Prosper in Polk. And it also has a social media campaign that I had some special funds allotted from the county to drive a social media campaign. So we have a Facebook campaign, a geofencing campaign, and a LinkedIn campaign, all trying to support this. And as part of this, you can also, as long as you're outside of Polk County, there's a contest tied to this because we're trying to collect names of people interested in working in Polk County. So if you want to win a 2-night stay at the Balsam Lake Lodge, newest lodge in Polk County, as far as I know, you can put your name, your email address, and your zip code, so we can verify you're coming from outside the county. And we're collecting those names. So far in a month and a half, we have over 200 people that have entered this contest. And that's a database of names that I share with our membership that they can now do their own mailings with to say, hey, heard you're interested in Polk County, we have these jobs open. So really trying to make a deliverable difference for the county. Really for our employers in the county. But the website as a whole just goes through, it's really what I call a lifestyle website. So it just shows some of the great statistics and great things that we have, and it's being somewhat cut off because of this, I see. Let's see. Guess I should have minimized that a lot earlier. Oh, it didn't minimize it on that screen. Oh, well. It goes through that we have small town living, big city access, and you can directly link through here. These are some of our member organizations. And the great thing about this is that you can actually go right in here and you can find a job. So if you're interested in Amory Technical Products, this is a direct link to their careers page. So any of those businesses, so it's more than just getting people interested in coming to the area. It's actually getting them to act on their interest. Along with this, it shows the diversity of what we have to offer in Polk County. We have technology, we have finance, we have manufacturing. We have, a lot of different industries represented here, and the list goes kind of on. And I put that near the top of the site so it got a lot of traction. Then it goes through again, you can enter to win, talks about living in Polk County. All the links report back into our office, so I'm able to control these links and control the information that goes out. So if you want to know a little bit about living in Polk County, you can download an information sheet. You can also then, it'll submit a request to me and I'll connect them with the local realtor if they're interested in a certain area. We have quotes out here from people that have lived here for a year up to 30 years and just how great it is. If you want to work in Polk County, you can download a profile of the county and of course the wonderful tourism opportunities that we have here. This is a direct link to the tourism website as well. So all of this is an effort to try and drive workforce into Polk County to try and solve some of the needs we had. And it goes hand in hand with the next thing we're trying to accomplish, which is housing. And get adequate, what is considered workforce housing, which is not low-income housing. Workforce housing is for those people that want to work, can work, have a good job, and just can't find a decent place to live in Polk County. We want to try and solve that. So unfortunately, I've heard that story out in the county. I don't know if you've heard it here, Paul, but there's companies that have hired people willing to work. Of course, our employers are excited to have them. They're there for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, can't find a place to live in that time, and they leave. And, as economic development guys, we hate to hear those kind of stories. It's something that we want to try and solve. So that's one of the ways that we're trying to help make an impact here for the county and for Amory, of course. Any comments or questions from what you've seen on things that we could do better or ways that we could partner up better with Paul to make an impact here for you guys in Amory as well?
So I sit on the Amory Economic Board and have for several years, and I've seen this, pre-COVID existence, and we're before COVID, it just seemed like we were really pushing that we were getting to a point where things were just about to happen, where something was going to be a catalyst to spur the growth in this region of Polk County, the southern part of Polk County. Then COVID hit, and that changed all of your jobs, and both you and Paul did an outstanding job on more of a survival mode. And what did this new world with COVID and business, and we never expected the outcome to be what it was for sure.
Mhm.
And now we're kind of coming out of the pandemic, not quite yet, but we're getting close to it. And we have, a lot of issues on hand, like staffing and personnel and living and I mean, all those things that you were talking about. Are we going to start shifting, you think, back to that, okay, driving forward out of that survival mode in the next 12, 18 months, 24 months? What do you see the future of economic development being? I guess I would call it short-term. 2 years is short-term, I guess, nowadays.
Right. I can tell you what I hear and what I think I see in Polk County, and Paul, you're welcome to weigh in on this because we both are out and about here in the different things. From a order and busyness standpoint, the pandemic is in the rearview mirror. You know, I mean, that's why the workforce shortage, there's just not enough people. And that's gonna be the next crisis or pandemic
Yeah.
is the workforce, because a lot of things are happening. Number one, older people, they're calling this the Great Resignation. Because a lot of people that were near retirement said the heck with it and just got out. Those that maybe were employed and thought, "Oh, I'll stick this out a few more years," decided not to. And we already have, as we know, in Amory and surrounding in Polk County, we have an aged population. So a lot of those workers that have been at these places are heading out, and there's just not enough young workforce to come in and replace them. So in my eyes, as far as everybody's pipeline is completely full. I haven't talked to any business in Polk County, no matter what they're manufacturing or what they're doing, that is, you know, hurting for business. It's more finding the people to complete the business that they have. And I think that's the next crisis area, which is why we're kind of focused on that workforce and housing area right now.
That's it. I mean, even last year during probably the worst of the pandemic, frankly, the manufacturers in Amory were going well. They're doing well. I mean, and it just continued. And like Terry said, I mean, one of the reasons they have a problem with workforce is they are doing well. They're willing to be part of the solution on some of these things. Daycare is a big deal. They think daycare will help a lot. I mean, housing obviously, but if you're no matter where you're living, if you're living in Star Prairie, you have daycare, you're not going to work in the plant either. So if you got daycare, that might get you to work in a plant type thing. So we met last week with a person from WEDC, kind of a new position, and we told them, you know, we go to, you know, every time you look around, there's a housing webinar or seminar or whatever. Have anybody ever thought about having a daycare webinar or seminar? I mean, how do you start solving that issue of daycare? Because it's not as big as housing, but it's definitely there. I mean, you have people in home right now because they don't have grandma and grandpa or whoever to help out. So that's a big thing. But I think, Tim, I think we're ready to keep moving forward. I think people have some money to spend, developers. I think that Amory is a willing partner for the area. I think there's probably others in Polk County willing partners. So I think things will start happening. And I'm really encouraged by as I mentioned a minute ago, the businesses that have been developing in town, have been opening up in town. It's a variety that we haven't seen for a while, I don't think. And so I'm hoping those things kind of work in our favor. But hoping is, you know,
Yeah.
you gotta
Well,
show me the money.
Yeah, you look at the development that's going on in places, you know, our border towns, New Richmond, Roberts.
Amazing.
You know, you don't stand around New Richmond, you'll have a 2x4 nailed to you at some point. Now it's to get that here, and hopefully with this beautiful new downtown we have, that'll be an attraction. You told me it was gonna be. Yeah, you did.
It is beautiful.
But, you know, hopefully with things like that, you know, we have this new downtown, we have this kind of refreshed look, and there's been a lot of noise about it too, and hopefully that'll push things as well, so.
Well, and something I know that Paul's looking at, you know, some potential senior housing. There's a rumbling of potentials, really good potentials throughout the county, which is great to hear, but this all, you know, takes time to come together. But I was asked this afternoon at a meeting, if you were the county, where would you spend your money? Senior housing is a big need. And in my mind, it solves two things. Number one, our aged population and our housing study, which Amory participated in, highlighted that there's many elderly, older people that don't want to go into the senior home scenario, but they just don't want to deal with their house anymore. And there is no place to go, so they stay in their house. So we don't have a place for them to go. In the interim, their house is not available to solve some of our housing shortage for those younger families that want to come into our area. So
That's a huge
that's my-
thing, that these folks they're staying in their homes way too long.
Yeah.
Way too
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
So,
One thing I want to interject too, what Terry mentioned, showing you the video and the work that Polk County is doing. I made myself a note. I don't think I brought this to even the board of the ADC yet, but Momentum West, 10-county regional area, which Polk County is part of, has a 4-video series. They're each about 3 minutes long, and there's some repetition in them, but they're all focused on different things about this region, which includes Polk County. With Ben South One is on the ADC website, two of them are on there actually. I think one is on the city site, I believe, too. The reason we picked that one shows Mr. Patel from SMC talking to that one, for example. Amory is on a background piece. But the point is that those are also marketing things. So I've sent all those videos to the manufacturers and the hospital. I don't know if I include the school ones they're sitting right now as a bigger employers in our area. Great recruiting tool. I mean, they're professionally done. I mean, they're really, really well done. And I'll need to get that. I mean, I'll get to Patty and she can get it to the council. You can see those, so you can see that kind of stuff, because it is something. If you're an employer and you're recruiting people, it's really probably worth your time to get that in front of somebody. They're really very well done.
And there is a
when you
poll.
watch, and the thing of it is, it shows. You mean it's from St. Croix Falls to Eau Claire to Hudson, and it shows all the, whether it's scenery or the technology in our area, or the transportation systems in our area, or the tourism type stuff, the quality of life type things, or just more subjects. They're just, yeah, you kind of know why you live here, when you watch it. Right?
And Paul and I lobbied to get as much Polk County footage in there as we
Yeah.
could,
Not
knowing they
much.
were covering a big region. So you will notice a few business owners are interviewed in that series, and you will notice some footage shot around the area.
If you know Dr. Elving, you'll see him walking his grandson in Main Street in the background, and you'll see SMC in one, but the flyover of AFP, but not a lot of Polk in there
Yeah.
typically, but that's okay. I mean, some of the scenery and stuff you recognize, but regional shows well.
And the EDC will be producing just a Polk County specific video. I know there's some I saw on your website that Paul's featured in, and the one that you produced as well that features Amory. I want to incorporate some of that. But Polk County EDC will also be producing a video specific to Polk County in the next year, which will become part of that website. The Prosper and Polk website is a growing living thing. There's going to be hopefully a cost calculator tool added to that, so people can plug in, here's what I'm making here in the cities. What if I stayed in Polk County, didn't have to travel, didn't have to do this, that? Would I actually be saving some, even though I'm making a little less? Chances are yes. Those are the types of things I want to be adding to the site as it progresses.
One of the things I'd like to say is 20 years ago, there was a disconnect between Polk County and Amory and Polk County and Osceola. And in the last 4 years, maybe 5 years, with tourism and Polk County EDC they're paying attention to us a little bit. And that's very nice. Very, very nice. So thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Thank you for all the time.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, with the consensus of the council, I'd like to move number 9, certified survey map for Lampert's, to next, as the Lampert's principal is here. And so who wants, which is on page 50 of the 55 pages. It appears that a few years back that the land was signed off to give to the Lamperts for the fences on the northeast corner, and it was never transferred because the last CFO did not show up for the meeting to sign the papers. So to make things right, we should transfer that land. So is that correct?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yep. How big of a chunk of land are we talking? 8,000 square feet, something like that, I think it was. It says 8,500 square feet.
Okay, I got you now. Thank you.
What were the terms of the agreement of the transfer then? And I would
Lambert to pay for the surveying and surveying registration recording.
And that's the current agreement that was passed by planning commission?
It also says that it's retaining some of the easement on the side to make sure that
Correct.
if there's any other expansion, the alley or anything like that, but I think we covered all those at the planning commission.
What's the value to the city of doing that? It's, because one could look at it and say the city is giving away land to Lamperts.
It's honoring,
It's not an agreement that was made
agreement that
at
was
the time
made
that it was supposed to
previously.
have been taken care of.
The city property not taxed, now it'll be business property that will get taxed.
Good answer.
Tax.
So I was looking for value, right? I mean, that's,
And it's cleaning up the property lines.
Hope to expand there, and this will help make that.
make a motion to accept the revised certified map.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, number 2 now. Resolution 17/2021 procurement policy. And that is for discussion.
I think this was discussed at committee of the whole and was forwarded to city council for approval. And the direct effect it has is on the, when we do federal grants and bids and so forth, correct?
Formalizes a lot of the things that should be covered, but as far as other issues. that
And a
come up,
lot of our funding sources require,
Right.
A procurement policy, yep.
For federal funding.
make a motion to approve resolution 17-2021.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, City Center, Keller Avenue, general obligation bonding presentation from Baird.
Well, good evening, everyone. Justin Fisher from,
And
just to kind of start out, I've been working with Patty the last couple of months, working on different financing illustrations at how to fund a few different projects that the city's contemplating here. The first, if you look at the presentation packet that I believe is in your agenda
he must have
packet.
heard us to know he was on.
That's cool. Don't do that. You have enough trouble. Inception.
He's unmuted
Mhm.
and he's there.
Maybe his microphone is off.
Can you hear me?
Nope,
We can't hear
we
you.
can't hear you.
Oh, our computer here is muted. Does that have to be unmuted?
No.
Because that causes
Oh.
that feedback.
Because it should be coming out of that.
Right.
Is
Is
the
that on?
owl on?
Hear me now?
All is on.
It's not unplugged again.
It was on and I was trying.
There's no light.
Fix the wall.
The wall's broken.
The wall's plugged in.
Can everyone hear me now?
Everybody has. It'd be nice when everything is all in one.
Right now.
Can everyone hear me now?
I didn't hear it go. Boo.
Yeah, it turned it on.
We would show
Okay.
up on that list.
Can you hear me now?
The owl would be showing up as one of those options.
Can you hear me now?
Well,
Oh,
it's connected to the owl speaker.
should I unplug it and plug it back in to power it down and reboot it?
Well, the thing is, on my end, I can see it picking up our sound. It's like the sound isn't coming from him to it.
Okay,
Let's try What about this? Does this work?
Where's Ben?
Should we? Can,
Maybe
Somebody
just
text Tom
call
and see if Tom can hear him.
yeah, I'll go grab it.
That might.
Can you hear me now?
If it's
If
into
it's
the
one way
Zoom
or
call
both.
or if it's from the Zoom to here.
Right.
You could hold up signs.
Okay,
Can you hear me now?
Well, he's out there. Well,
Adjust the agenda.
maybe we should.
This is Tom. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I didn't think of you as a hockey player.
No, not anymore.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I don't know, through the closet we
From the
can.
basketball part. Yes.
Can you hear me through the speaker?
Nope.
No,
I thought there was a.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
There we go.
ta-da.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we can hear you perfectly on our end. So I apologize for thinking you could hear me for a little bit there. All right. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Everything's good.
Okay. Patty, did you want to do an introduction to this, or should I just start up?
Just
Go
go.
ahead, just go. for
Okay.
it.
Well, perfect. Well, yeah, Patty and I have been working on this over the last couple of months, looking at the different, contemplated city projects that are on the docket here. The first one that we started discussing was with MSA and the Keller Ave project. That's within TID number 6. And the amount that we're talking about here is about $1.1 million. So in the presentation packet that you should have in front of you, if you look at that page number 1, that's the financing illustration for that particular financing. So it's going to be a 10-year financing, level debt service, and the payments are about $120,000 annually. And that's what matches pretty close to what Keller Ave or MSA has in their pro forma for TID number 6. So kind of working between them, Patty, and so forth. And then what we're going to be doing is combining this financing with the contemplated city center and other capital expenditure projects into one borrowing to essentially save on cost of issuance and be one financing versus multiple financings. So when you look at page 2 of the presentation, this is the first option or scenario for the city to consider here. So what this does is when you look at this page, there's a lot of numbers on here, and I'll walk you through from the left side to the right side. So the left side of the page is the existing debt service, the levy supported debt. So you can see that in 2021, the debt service payment was $250,000. Then the city did the $4,250,000 borrowing not too long ago. That's what the increase in the debt service from $250,000 to $355,000. That effect on that the taxpayer rate is $1.49 to $2.11. So that's where the first kind of impact is that you'll recognize in there. So that was that 62 cents that we communicated with the city and you and so forth. That was the 62 cent impact from the $4,250,000 bond. Now what the city is considering is including some additional costs tied to that project, along with other capital expenses in the amount of say $900,000. So see, that's in the center of the page there. Then if you go to the right side, you can see what the combined debt service may potentially look like after this borrowing. So from $250,000 now to $438,951. Another way to look at it is we're at $355,000. We're now going to add essentially about $100,000 to about $438,000. So an additional 50-cent impact over the $4,250,000 borrowing. So when you take the 62 cents plus the 50 cents that we're showing here tonight, the total kind of effect over 2021 is $1.12, which when you think about it on a taxpayer perspective, on $100,000 property, that's about $112 for the impact there. Going to page 3 of the presentation, what I wanted to lay out here was the effect of, again, the TID number 6 projects for the 1,100,000 plus the $900,000 that we just talked about for a total borrowing of $2 million. You can see there what I did was I showed it in a general obligation debt capacity bar chart, because one of the things that I'm constantly looking at as well is, do you have room to be able to take on this borrowing and still have breathing room in case in the future you have additional projects or something comes up where you need to borrow for. And as you can see in here, the black bars is what's existing. The blue bars in there is the TID number 6 debt. And then the red bars is the capital expenses in city center project for $900,000. So even after this potential borrowing of say $2 million, the estimated remaining general obligation bonding capacity is $4,860,000. And that's about 38% remaining capacity. So you can see that you're still in the comfort zone with having a nice breathing room for what, having flexibility in the future if you need to enter the markets to borrow. And then as you pay off debt year over year, you can see how that percentage increases year over year. Let's go to the next page, because this is kind of the other scenario that, Patty, and I want you to consider is the doing a $1,400,000 borrowing. So an additional $500,000 over the $900,000. So same concept here, left side of the page is the existing debt service. The middle is the $1,400,000 and the right side is the combined debt service. Again, we're keeping the max impact to an additional 50 cents over what it currently would be. So again, over 2021, that's $1.12 for a $112 impact per $100,000 home. How we're structuring these particular loans though is a little bit different. So you can see that on both the last financing plan, page 2 and page 4, I highlighted in yellow there the final principal maturity date there, because what we're going to do is we're going to have all this debt callable right away, meaning that you can refinance, prepay, etc. Whenever you so choose. What we want is the flexibility on that final payment date, if you need it, to be able to extend that debt. You have an additional 10 years if you need it. You may not need it. And so the kind of thought is, why pay the additional interest if you don't need to? So at that particular time, you can pay off some of the debt to keep the payments the same, or we can extend the debt for up to an additional 10 years. And that probably is the likely scenario if the city decides to do the additional $1.4 million, because you can see that's a much larger kind of final payment there of $760,000. So that's kind of the thought process here on making sure that we give you the flexibility to be able to prepay this whenever you want. And then what we're going to do is bid this out to local and national banks, just very similar to what we did earlier this year for the city center project. So if you go to the last page, page 6, so the kind of the timeline here is for city council to consider the plan of finance and decide the borrowing amount, whether it's the $2 million or the higher amount at $2.5 million. That's kind of the direction I need in order to kind of get things moving and get, information out to local and national banks so they have enough time to be able to analyze it and ultimately go internally to figure out what kind of rate they want to provide and then submit it to us at Baird. So that'll take place between November 3rd today and December 1st. On December 1st is when I would come back to you with the final interest rate that was received for the proposed financing, and you would lock in the interest rate and it would all be locked in. At that particular point, a couple weeks later, the financing would close, which we're kind of targeting about that mid-December, December 15th. So that's when the city would receive the funds for the project. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
So we go with the 1.4 million, there's a 760,000 final payment in 10 years, which is renewable, pay offable, or maybe all already used up. So is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, you will have the option on that particular date or any date prior to it to pay it off, start reducing that principal, extend it if you so choose. But yeah, you will have plenty of flexibility with that.
Well, as my concern has always been, the next big project on the horizon is going to be your sewer plant. So we're looking at somewhere between 2025, 26, 27, somewhere in that time frame to kick that off. But I think even at that point, we'll still have 50% and increasing over a couple of years, 50% of our debt capacity available. Now, I understand that that's probably not going to be on city debt because it's a utility and whatnot, but we're definitely going to have some expense going through that project. So we want to have some capacity available. So even if we went with the higher amount, the 1.4 amount, would probably give us some more breathing room to finish up these projects that we're working on. And we'd still be in good shape for the big next future project.
At the payoff of 760, is that then negotiated at current rates or negotiable at that point, or does it continue with the existing interest rate?
Yeah, that's a good question. It'll be at that particular time, depending on where market interest rates are, you'll have the ability to, we'll go back out to the market at that particular time, or you just go to the local bank and try to, get a favorable interest rate at that particular time.
You would just refinance at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So I kind of went through the wish list and proposed use of $1.4 million. And I added up all the things here. And I put in 40,000 for foundation repair. And it comes to 741,000. The first thing on the list was replacing the city center roof. And I got a letter from Custom Foam, who did the roof inspection, and who are the ones that also did the patching where they put the HVAC units through the roof. And the current roof system looks to be in average condition. There are not many signs of tenting walls, seems like to be in good condition. No signs of splitting or delamination, no major defects in current roof system. There are a few minor defects like curved corner flashing, failing in certain areas, lap seam with a small crack in the membrane. We recommend that the minor defects be fixed this year. As for roof replacement, we would suggest budgeting for 5 years out. At that time, another inspection could determine if it would make it beyond that or would need replacement at that time. So if we would pull that off and put in so much money for capital improvement every year, to build up to that point instead of spending it now. I think would be a wise choice. And other things, do we need to do all this? I know
No,
that,
I think we just have to decide which one, we don't have to decide when you're spending it.
okay, okay,
But a thumbnail like that is really good,
yeah,
just to know, is it going to fit? And I think just like any other budget, when it comes down to what do we do with it, we prioritize it as
okay,
what's most critical, and the least critical may fall off or get pushed to another time.
Okay.
So I think all we have to do is provide Baird with direction as to which one of the choices that we would ask them to pursue.
I guess the other question I would have is what other delayed maintenance have we not done around the city or delayed investment? The interest rates are pretty cheap right now, so I mean.
There's a lot of work that could be done in the parks, just so everybody knows that. I mean, you go to the band shell bathhouses. They're bad.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of work that's gonna be coming up in the parks too.
Well, and the first question I heard when the new road opened is, looks great, but when are they gonna fix all the side roads now?
yeah.
So,
Well, and Harriman and Riverside and that, the detour on the east side, those roads have taken a pretty good beating this summer.
because we're looking at a mill rate that's the same, whether it's one, if I'm reading this right, 1.9 million versus 900,000, mill rate is the same. Granted, we have that big balloon payment.
Right.
That still have a balloon payment if we go with the 900,000.
Right. That's just a
Granted,
matter
much
of
smaller, but-
refinancing it 10
Right.
years out, so.
And things will not get cheaper to do. If you do them now, that's probably the best time to do it. I don't see how we could not.
I'd rather have a little breathing room, considering everything that's going on, and we still don't have this project done. We still have things that we know need to be done, and I just think it's wise to go with a higher dollar amount than not, and be stuck not having money available and having to go through this again.
Have to go
And
through this
it
again.
costs money to do this every time.
Yes, it does.
Well, and I think as was stated, if we decide we don't need all the money next year, we can pay it down, right? Without any
Mhm.
penalties.
Oh, yep, we sure can.
So,
But I know how that works. It never gets paid down.
There's going to be things we haven't anticipated with a move or something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It just does.
Mhm.
At this point, it's the only way to make the budget work at the same time.
and the current budget that we posted, I believe, assumed we were taking a 1.4 million.
For how much?
1.4.
See, have to hire, so we were at.
You know, the debt has a cost, delayed maintenance has a gigantic cost too. And that will come up to bite us. And I think the school district is also finding that right now with the ask in their referendum. Delayed maintenance is costing them a lot of money. Costing us as taxpayers a lot of money.
Well, and even looking at this very short wish list, putting we're putting how much money into that new city center? Let's put a decent roof on it, not have to worry about it. The salt shed thing, DNR's been hounding us pretty good about it. I mean, those are kind of priority things that we should be looking at. So, and it sounds like the consensus is 1.4, so I'll make a motion for the 1.4
I'll second that.
and form the motion however it needs to be.
Any further discussion?
I want to, just so that we're clear on the 1.4, does that mean that we are giving carte blanche to this whole list?
No,
That's your
Nope.
approval. This is just a
Nope.
list. You
Those
folks do
are
the-
possibles.
Yeah, I just threw those.
I think these topics need further discussion
Yeah,
by
you have
far.
to
Yes.
Oh,
decide.
yeah.
And I think what we had asked Patty to do at the last meeting that we had was to, okay, if we're gonna ask for this,
What do we need?
what do
Right.
we need? What,
Exactly right.
where are you coming up with that number?
Yep.
And so this,
Yeah, we
At least
talked
gives
about that,
us a
but
start.
we needed
Yeah.
something to actually point at, so.
Right.
thank
And
you
that
for
was just off the top of my head, that's what I could see. you
Well, there
know.
are things that got moved out of the budget.
Mhm.
that
So
we do.
where do our road repairs fall into this?
I did not put those in there. I mean, we've got money budgeted for
Yep.
road repairs, that's Jeff, I don't
Yep.
know what he has to do. I have
200
no idea.
200,000.
Yep, and that's for,
Yeah.
you know, look, we gotta paint all the side streets
Yeah.
now. They're all, we didn't paint them this year, we saved a couple dollars. And, you know, we gotta pave North Park, we gotta pave Harriman, we gotta pave by the school, you know, there's a lot of beaten up roads right now, so. Just go as far as I can each year.
200,000.
But some of
will
this could
probably
be
pay
put
half
towards
of North
North
Park.
Road.
Yeah.
I get North Park.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
I-
only half of it.
I think, you know, we have to for sure include the two culverts on Harriman, the one down there and the one down here on the corner. I looked at the fire department, police department, downtown tornado siren, you know, we talked about that at one time and decided to not do that because of the possibilities of, you know, social media goes so fast that probably faster than a finger on the button for the siren.
That, I just want to say that we can put it to rest then, because that's you making that decision.
Yeah, I know, I
Um,
just,
And that, we never really made a decision, so
Okay.
I think Tom and Dale need to see what direction you're going with on that, so we can finally put it to bed. And say, this is not something we want to do, so.
I'm not too excited about the PD and the fire department coming in post-budget meeting with another $20,000 worth of expenses.
That was on capital and it was taken out, so that was originally in the capital,
Yeah,
that was there.
so what was approved with this hand is now coming around to this hand
Well,
for.
again, that's, nothing's approved.
Yeah.
No, nothing has been.
So this is still a wish list of things that we can decide whose
Exactly.
wishes are granted, I guess. But it's going to be which things are the most important.
Correct.
Some of those aren't.
Right.
I believe we have a motion that's been seconded.
Yes,
Yeah, we-
and all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yep. South Industrial Road Project Engineering Services Agreement
So
and
now we'll see how soon hockey practice
Project.
is, by how fast it goes.
I've got it all taken care of.
Okay.
Kids are getting there, the kids are
That's
getting
important.
coached, we're good.
They're on the
So,
ice.
the updated agenda, does it have the engineering agreement first? I apologize, I don't have.
There's a supplemental letter.
project bid first.
Project bid first, okay, good.
Yeah.
So, we were going to bid the project in December, January timeframe. We opted to move it up early and bid it last month, and I think it was a good decision. We got some good interest in it. We got 5 prime bidders. The low bidder, Albright's and Excavating of Woodville, it was about 1.5 million. And the high bid from Total Excavating was about 2 million. And then we had a couple of 3 bids in between that, and ranging from about 1.6 to 1.8. So I feel like we did get some good numbers. I've talked to Albertson now a couple of times. They're comfortable with their number, where it's at. They're actually anxious to get started, and actually asked if they could get started early before contract. So the next step, if you were to award the bid, would be to work through contracting with Albertson. They asked if they could even get started before contracts were signed. They have their clearing company is available, and they'd like to get in there and start working. Contracts usually take about a month-ish to get through, so.
And we
we
have had Albright in town before, no problem. Everybody knows that.
And what was the bid amount?
bid amount is $508,152.30. Yeah, and I've worked with Albright over the years, and that Jeff has had some experience with them too. So we'd recommend going with a low bid from Albright.
And this is being paid for out of TID something, right?
Yeah, so it's been going on for a while, this project. And it is, whoever said, the engineered estimate, that last one we did was 1.9 million. So that was in that estimate, it will be covered from TID, along with there's other expenses next on your agenda, engineering, also like utility extensions out there. There's some other testing things, that kind of stuff. And it falls within the range of what was expected. Yes.
And utilities, do they have to be paid out of the utilities funds, not city funds?
Oh,
Or is that something different? Am I?
I'm talking like communication, gas,
Oh,
electric,
okay. All right.
streetlights, those items.
Well, earlier tonight, we heard that it's the second 20-acre parcel in the county. I mean, so let's get it going, I guess.
Motion to approve the 1.5 million Albright's in bid,
I'll second.
or accept,
Except,
I guess is a better term.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Engineering services agreement?
So this is engineering services agreement for engineering services throughout the construction of the project. You know, it'll start with the contracting. It'll be inspection, construction, staking, project closeout. You guys are familiar with construction projects by now. And so I'll be the next Eric here, but it'll be a much smoother project.
Oh, thanks.
And improved Eric. No.
Eric
Awesome.
2.0.
All right, who's the next Drew?
He was an RPR.
Oh,
He's asking who the next RPR.
yeah, Corey or Ron.
Okay.
But you guys do have somebody there?
Yeah.
Throughout the project?
Yep, so DNR requires full-time inspection of water and sewer. And then there will be other, you know, important pieces that will want to be there for make sure that the road is stable. You know, sewer goes in right, things get done correctly. But yeah, it's our plan to have somebody there. Yep. And that's included in this. So, and I should say too, it's a time material estimate. You know, so that's, we estimate how many hours we think. If contractor is faster, or easier than we might expect, then maybe it won't be as much.
Anybody want to get started this fall yet?
Yeah, actually, they want to, as mentioned to a few council members before, they would like to potentially start clearing trees next week. Before the contractors even signed, and then they would put in the different utilities being water and sewer that aren't underneath the new road. That's along Highway 46, and then we're looping the water main back to the Whispering Water subdivision. Do that work after Thanksgiving if they can still get in there.
Better tell my kid he's got to get his camera out of there.
Get his deer out of there.
Yeah.
That's the only traffic disruption there'll be is wildlife. Not
Yeah.
Main Street.
Yep, there's no lane closures planned on 46. There is some shoulder work. The paved shoulder will be changed to a turn lane, a right turn lane coming southbound. But planned for no closures.
Well, since there's hockey to be played, make a motion to approve the engineering rate.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah. As long as
Thanks, Eric.
As long as you give us the economic.
Eric, Eric's next.
Should move forward as soon as possible.
All right, so I've got the next three items here, and item number one is change order 4 for Keller Avenue construction. This included a couple things. This is the shallow curb deduct that we talked about and we're hoping to consider at the October meeting that the contractor didn't sign before that. And we had discussed it again at that meeting, and you guys had kind of said, no, we're firm on that, and so they signed it.
Okay.
And so that's what this change order is. So ultimately, it's a deduct of the contract price for $4,068.25. There was a couple things that did get left out of. One thing that got left out of the downtown revisions was the remobilization costs, and that was brought to my attention after change order 3 was signed. So that is on this as well, because there's more fuel and trucking to get the things here and that sort of thing. And so that was erroneously left off of change order 3 and was brought to my attention after it was signed and was already at consideration for council. So that's on here, as well as a couple additional work authorizations. I believe we are up to date on additional work authorizations after this one. So unless A1 has some surprise things that we don't know about at this point, we should be up to date on those as well. So that is change order 4, if there's any questions.
And it looks as though there's some, 3 work orders, I think, that you have recommended rejecting, and has that been presented to them, or?
Yes,
where is that?
they have these exact documents
Okay.
that you have with the red letters on them and everything.
Mhm.
So
Make a
So,
motion. Are we gonna do?
go
I'll
ahead.
make a motion to approve change order number 4.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Change order 5.
all right, so I heard at 3 o'clock this afternoon that A1 and Samson Concrete were not planning on attending tonight. After having said that they were thinking about it before, they would like to either come to the committee of the whole meeting or a special meeting during November to present their side of the story. And so I had sent you all an email yesterday regarding that. And that email is still gonna, or that letter is still gonna be relevant at the time of that discussion. The question, I guess, before you tonight is we can strike this and wait for that presentation. Or you can kind of forge ahead and still hold some sort of discussion regarding what you would like to see. Ultimately, so right now, the work according to the contract is technically deficient. And so any sort of change order that you authorize for that would be basically a goodwill extension. Saying there's, we recognize there's materials on the ground, there was work that went into this, that sort of thing, but if the contractor ultimately says, we don't agree to what you were presenting, the work is deficient and receives no payment. And we would recommend that if the contractor would like to not play ball essentially with any sort of negotiations that you guys would engage in for that. So I guess I'll leave that up to you at this point, if you want to have any sort of conversation regarding this now, or if you'd like to wait till committee of the whole or potential special meeting to discuss this further.
I got a question.
Mhm.
So most of the concrete came in at 4,000, a little bit under.
Little bit under,
4,000, yeah, a little bit under. What is the longevity between the two? Take that sidewalk out there at 4,500, take the sidewalk at 3,970 or whatever it was. What's the longevity difference? What is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it depends on the use, because what's happening is that the ultimate strength won't get as high, and so sidewalks,
if it's just pedestrian traffic, it's probably not a lot of difference. But if you start driving four-wheelers and ATVs and things like that on it, I'm assuming downtown business is shovel. They're
I'm
going-
betting with these bigger sidewalks, you're gonna have ATVs, they run
Okay.
lawn tractors up and down,
Yep.
the machines are just gonna get bigger.
Mhm.
So I would hold to it.
So that would be my concern on that, and I can't really give you an estimate of the difference between the two, because it's gonna depend on use. So again,
What does
That's
this,
impressive.
what's the minimum state recommendation? Is there a minimum?
for like compressive strength on concrete, I would have to look up DOT spec on that, I
Okay.
don't know that off the top of my head.
I still think it's outside the spec of the job.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
it is
definitely.
outside what was
And-
in
and
the
I don't-
spec at the time of
Right,
bid,
and
yes.
is it the contractor's fault? Is it the supplier's fault? It doesn't really matter at this point. But I think we can extend the courtesy to the contractors to at least have a discussion with them about it. So I
Yeah.
don't think anybody's looking for anything for free,
No.
but then again,
Yeah, but if
it's not the spec too.
Right, and if it's not acceptable to have, withhold payment for the materials, what would be acceptable? Is there a counter proposal? I think that would be reasonable. And I think it would be reasonable to match the percentage of deficiency if they were to look at something.
I think it's worth a negotiation.
Absolutely.
Or at least a discussion.
We'll talk.
So then is the official move?
So can we just-
To table this?
We
or-
will not take it
Yeah.
out.
Patty, can you put them on the?
Has nobody talked to Samstone, Eric?
Sorry, what's that?
Has nobody talked to Samstone or county or whoever?
Samson Concrete should be talking to them,
Yeah,
and they, from my understanding, they got the first couple tests back in like July, after that first round of concrete had hit 28 days. And saw that it was a little low, and Semstone came on site a couple times to do something with the cylinders. And then tests have continued to fail. I just, like, literally while I was sitting in this meeting, got an email for the sidewalks on the south end for the 28-day breaks, because we just hit that, and those also failed. And so from the very first pour in May until the very last pour in October, it doesn't meet the spec. There's some in there that do, and I sent you all those reports if you wanted to wade through those. I would estimate that about 75%, 60 to 70% don't pass. And they were from one end of the project to the other. So
Laid at different times, laid by the same contractor.
Yep.
And from the same supplier.
Yep.
Sounds more like a materials issue.
Because your people were on site to watch the pouring, and you said the pouring was done to spec.
it seemed like,
And,
it,
and
yeah,
I don't know how
It
the
was-
pouring would have an effect on the quality of the material too.
right.
I mean,
You
unless,
also got just the guy taking the samples is certified to do it too.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
He's went through their schooling and,
Right, because there are some things that would affect how you maintain the cylinder too.
Correct.
So maybe Sunstone didn't have great cement.
They used the wrong formula, I think.
Well, they get supplies from other places too.
Yeah.
Is it the
Like,
right-
maybe their crate mix is,
Exactly.
Made in China.
I don't.
We don't
Let's
know,
wait to hear from them.
Again, it's not for us to
We don't know.
decide, and
but we'll be
I
willing to
wanna
wait and
wait.
talk, so.
And ultimately, it's not your issue to litigate that between the contractor and their supplier, the subcontractor and their supplier. Your agreement is with A1 Excavating, and Samson Concrete is a sub to them.
Yep.
And they have a supplier. So this is 2 or 3 steps removed from your concern in that way.
So should our conversation really just be with A1 and not with Sam?
I've requested that if Samson is here, A1 also be present. Because that's the route that contractor communication should go, is that I'm not opposed to subcontractors sharing what they want to share. But the prime contractor needs to be present for that conversation as well.
so I'll make a motion to table potential change order 5 for Keller Avenue reconstruction, concrete compressive strength until committee of the whole.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. pay application for pay application 6.
All right, so A1 has submitted pay application 6 for the amount of $172,475.77. That includes some miscellaneous items, but the bulk of it, so 167,000 of that, so everything but $5,000 is wrapped up in paving at 110,000, lift station at 45,000, because they finished that up now, and the concrete head wall at Memorial Drive for $12,000. So after that, it's some kind of miscellaneous stuff that gets an additional 5,000 on there, like paying for the rest of the traffic control now that the traffic control has been taken down, or paying for the rest of the erosion control, things like that, that were up and are now being taken down since the project is completed. So that is, that's what this pay request is basically paving, lift station and head wall. I would recommend that the council conditionally approve this and not sign it at this point, because I checked with our funding folks and they don't have all of the payroll information that they need to monitor the wage rates and that sort of thing. I believe we did this with the first pay application, that we conditionally approved it upon meeting all funding requirements or satisfying all of the contractual funding requirements. So I guess recommended language for a motion would be something along the lines of conditionally approving pay request 6, or approval of pay request 6 with the condition of satisfying all contractual funding requirements.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Is there a final accounting? Is there more that we're paying for or not paying?
Yep, so that will come in December. We know this job has to be finalized out in December for CDBG requirements, which is your community development block grant requirements. And so at that point, at that December council meeting, we will have a final pay request that will include some sort of, it will definitely include a change order of some sort, because for funding requirements, we have to make all of our bid quantities match our installed quantities, so that the percent work is 100% and the amount to completion equals 0, or the yet to be completed equals 0, just to final all the paperwork out. That will also include whatever agreement happens on the concrete, because right now there's a good chunk of concrete still hanging out there that hasn't been paid for because we have this issue to deal with. So
How's that gonna, how are the streetlight things gonna factor into that, since they're not here yet? And they need to be installed when they do get here, if they get here, stop and go lights, or is that on the
yeah,
state
that's
side?
on the state contract,
Okay.
so that doesn't affect your
Disregard that.
contract at all.
And there are still lights that aren't working, or there was when I went out for a walk a couple days ago.
There are, okay,
The
I
street
will-
light, the street lights from basically
Noah,
2.5 blocks.
Yeah.
or something.
there was an issue at Save a Lot somewhere in there at no insurance to Save a Lot. There was some cut wires, and I will check on that to see when
Because
that's
on the
getting
east,
taken care of.
they were off on the east side too.
Like you said, okay. And there might be a crossing there. I know that somewhere between, like under the driveway at no insurance and under the driveway at Save a Lot, I believe those systems got cut when they were paving, or when they were preparing to pave driveways. And that was a conversation that we had with A1 and B&B. I don't
2 weeks.
early October, whatever the last progress meeting that we had was.
3 weeks.
So I'll check in on that and see where that's at. I was planning on driving through town tonight just to see where the streetlights are, because I haven't been here while it's dark yet. So,
Well,
So this one, yeah. Okay, good.
did you get that motion?
Yes, whoever makes the
yeah.
motion. I have the word.
So moved.
Yeah.
Tim can take a breath. so.
Tim made the motion and Rick second.
There you go. Yeah, you don't wanna, it's better to have it written down.
Oh, yeah.
Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
So whenever we get that pen, I'll send you a signed copy from my end, and you can have Paul sign that.
And same with this one.
We can do that. now.
That's what I was thinking. You
Yeah,
wanna sign
I'll send it right now.
Just sign it and date it. I can just. You can sign a copy.
Hope for a couple days here. Successfully driven off just about everybody that was watching.
Thank you, Eric.
And it's still early.
It's still early. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to number 10. Rezoning of this property is a school box, 36 acres across from the school, from R2 to two-family residential, from two-family to AT agricultural transition.
Was this at any point in time zoned something besides R2? I would assume, wasn't it at some point in time?
Maybe way back when it
Yeah.
was all farmland around it.
Yeah.
But
I don't know why it would have ever been classified R2, because
That's what
it's
I'm
been
wondering.
farmland for at least 60
That's
years.
what I'm wondering.
That was back when they were gonna do that development. And they're gonna put in single family and two family, so they zoned the whole parcel.
I don't remember that we did the whole parcel at that. but
It has to
it's-
be, that's what we talked about, because Linda Millerman is on planning commission and she told us about it. So,
I know when that was a planned unit development that Craig
Mhm.
put in there.
Yeah,
And,
that's right.
but I didn't remember that the whole parcel or the whole, 40 some acres was changed.
I was supposed to say you didn't want to pay to redraw or to redraw the whole certified map.
My only question with that is, I saw there was an area that says animals.
Mhm.
And at this point in time, they only mentioned was of horses. But
sheep, goats and
sheep-
pigs
Sheep, goats, pigs.
Yeah, it
from
sounds like-
April through July for the raising for the county fair.
Yeah, it sounds like it's gonna be just for a period of like 4 months.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they
There's-
say now.
There is
I mean,
Well, I'm
nothing,
just,
there's
yeah.
there's nothing that we could do to make an agreement that they would only
Yeah, that's what.
do that.
they
It's
said.
either agricultural or it's not.
And we had two next door neighbors that are right there to be affected
There was
by it.
no public comments, so I called somebody else who lived over there and I said, what do you hear? Anybody? And he said, no, everybody thinks it's a good idea. And I said, even with animals? So farm before, it can be a farm again, so. I called and
Frenchie's
asked.
hauled manure over there a few years ago, if you remember.
Yeah, well, and it doesn't even have to be in the city of Amory if it's liquid in
No.
the fields to
No,
bring it into the city.
I just,
If it was agricultural and someone was actively farming it with animals, it might be different.
Yeah.
I hate to see a large parcel go out of the tax base, but that's already done.
Mhm.
There's nothing that you can do about that. And the other point that came up was, well, what happens if the school decides they don't want it and they sell it and somebody else gets it and it's still agricultural? There's nothing you can do with a covenant that would survive a transfer, so it doesn't matter what happens.
Well, we could adjust our ordinances to limit the number of animals and the time periods in which animals can be there.
Good.
And we could limit,
Yeah, and not having a crystal ball either, but I guess I would foresee the school would repurpose that land before they would sell it.
Oh, yeah.
Unless there was some,
I don't foresee any issues with them actually selling. it. Once you own property, it's really hard to come up with a reason to get rid of it.
so does the new CSM preclude the fact that they were talking about building 6 single-family homes?
No,
on
they
that?
left that out.
Yeah, I think they're doing it in steps. That's what I thought. I heard.
But I mean, if we
They're not-
designate this land,
They're not, it doesn't look to me like they're asking for the whole parcel.
No, because it looks like there's
They're
one,
leaving that
2,
out.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lots.
They were talking, yeah. The
Over
ones
here,
that eat-
yeah.
The ones that eat at the end of each street, they were
Yeah,
talking
right
about.
there, yep.
So they're not, those are excluded from this change.
And they might come back at a later time. Well, and that southwest corner is not on there either.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so I think they did a pretty good job planning that out.
And the other part where that, some of that is where that orchard and other stuff that's not usable for fields and anything anyway,
No,
it's
that's
pretty,
what-
it's pretty rough. As I said, there was no negative public comment, even when I went looking for it,
Mhm.
or at least looking for any back channel in the neighborhood.
Due diligence.
Just because you don't hear anything doesn't mean there isn't anything there sometimes.
So what typically would happen with the rezoning request, it comes to us and it's up to us to make a decision. So there really isn't any opportunity for public comment or anything like that. I mean, with this
There
coming
was-
to us like
There
this.
was,
I
there was
mean-
an opportunity for public comment at the planning commission.
Okay, so, okay.
It's
so there
already
was.
happened, yeah. we
Okay.
had a public hearing.
It was
At
publicized
9 AM during the day. So,
on a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that part of it. Got it.
Probably the two most affected neighbors for animals were there.
They were
so,
there.
And they were approved of it.
Well, as the planning commission member, I would move to accept this proposal to rezone for the school to ag.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
We don't have to sit here till 7:15, folks.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second,
Yes.
all in favor?
I,
Aye. Well, that was. Yeah, I thought.
So what are our next meetings then?
The goal is